Now let's look at how we can actually prove or derive the sine and cosine rule. So in one of my videos, I've explained how to use the rules, but let's see how we can actually get those rules. So the sine rule is something like this. When you have sine A over A equal to sine B over B equal to sine C over C. This is the sine rule. So how do we get this rule? So let me put sine rule here. Okay. So we're going to be using this triangle to explain how that rule come about. So first of all, we understand that this is angle A, this is angle B, right? Now, if we want to get the sine of angle A, what do we do? So we're using each of the triangles. So we have this triangle first. This is what we'll be using first for angle A, then before we get to this triangle for angle B. So this H here, this angle of H here, this line of H here, this 90-degree line, separates, is going to be the height for the two triangles in one triangle here. So basically, if you want to get the sine of A, you're going to say opposite over hypotenuse, right? Remember that from your SOHCAHTOA. And we know here, opposite is H. This is opposite, right? So we have H all over. The hypotenuse is what? This is the hypotenuse for this first triangle, is B. Okay? So if we bring this together, we have sine A is equal to H over B, right? I'm sure you agree with that. So since we have this, if you cross multiply, you'll be able to get the value for H. But I want to use another page to explain this. So let me put it here. You have sine A is equal to H over B. And when you cross multiply, you have H is equal to B sine A, right? Okay, so we need to log this down. Now let's go back to the triangle. If we want to get the angle for B, sine B, we will need also opposite of a hypotenuse. But this time, sine B is going to be H all over, because H is the opposite on that triangle. If you look at it, H is the opposite on this triangle, but this is now the hypotenuse for this triangle. So it's going to be H over A. H over A. So let me just explain something. So where did the A and B come from? You understand that the side opposite the angle of A is the small letter A. The side opposite the angle of B is the small letter B. And that's how it is in this sort of triangle. So the angle of C also, the opposite side is small letter C. Yeah. So that breeds the sine rule. But this is the proof, so we're just using those sides to be able to explain how we get those equation for sine rule. Okay, so we now have h over a, opposite of hypotenuse. At this point, we can cross multiply. We can say h now is equal to a sine b. Is that not so? So we have h here, b sine a. We have h here also, a sine b. If we equate these two, because this is h and this is h, if we put this here, we'll have this equal to b sine a. So let us do that. Let me clean this side off. So that means we now have b sine a is equal to a sine b. Okay. Now if you divide both sides by b and also divide both sides by a, So let's start with b first. So you divide by b first. You divide by b first. B will cancel out here, right? So that you have sine A is equal to A sine B over B, right? Now if you divide A on both sides, you get something like this. So already we have sine A is equal to A sine B over B. If you divide this A on both sides, you get sine A over A equal to A sine B over B times 1 over A, because this is the same thing as dividing on both sides. So this will cancel this, and then you have your answer finally as sine A over A is equal to sine B over B. Okay? Now, this sine rule can be inverted. It can be written in the inverse form. So it can also be something like A over sine A equal to, equal to B over sine B. I believe you get the same answer when you do something like this, basically. Because if you cross multiply, you see it's still the same thing as A sine B equals to B sine A. Okay? So sometimes they may write the sine rule like this, sometimes they may write it like this. So it depends on what you divide with. If you are divided with sine A, it would have become something like this. If you divided with small letter a, it becomes something like this. So we have gotten the first part. But what about equal to sine C over C? Where did this one come from? Because that's what we have in our sine rule here, this here. Where did this come from? So now you see we're still using this triangle. All we just need to do at this point is for us to turn the triangle in a way so that we have a new 90 degree, and then this way. Let me do that. Let me just do that. So coming. Let me explain what I mean. I didn't form all these pages earlier, so I'm gonna do that now. Okay. So you notice that the first triangle we did was something like this. So we had H here, we had B here, we had A here, and we had C here. Then we had A here, we had B here, we had C here. But this time, we're going to draw kind of like a line here and turn the triangle so that it looks something like this. So C and A will be at the bottom, then B will be somewhere at the top. Now let me not make it a rectangle triangle. So I'm gonna do something like that. Okay, so B will somehow be here. Oh no, let me do it this way. Okay. My drawing is really bad. Okay. Okay, I'll get this now. I'm not getting it. Okay, finally. So B will be here. Okay, and this time we're going to draw our H down this way, so that it cuts this way down to C and A, right? So we still have our B here, and then we have our C here, have our A here. But this time we are going to be finding the sine of H of A and the sine of C, and that's the difference. So for this, I don't know if you understand the point I just made. All we're just doing is we're turning the triangle upside down and putting the H, the height, at the point cutting C and A. That is all. So if you now find the sine of C, You know that is opposite of a hypotenuse, which would be opposite, right, over the hypotenuse A. So H over A. So also sine A, which we know is equal to opposite H over the hypotenuse C. This is the hypotenuse for the angle A, because this is now the new triangle for angle A, and this is another triangle for angle C. So if you cross multiply here, you have for C A, H is equal to A sine C, and for sine A, we have H is equal to C sine A. Okay, now you see that this H is this, H is also this. If you equate them, you have something like this. H now, which is A sine C, is equal to H, which is also C sine A. If you divide both sides by C and A, you have that. If you divide by C first, you have that A sine C is going to be over C equals to sine A, right? If you divide by A now, you have sine C over C is equal to sine A over A. So you see sine A is equals to sine C over C. And from our last proof, we saw that sine A over A is also equal to sine B over B. So that means we can now write our sine rule. Sorry about that. We can now write our sine rule. Our sine rule now becomes sine A over A is equal to sine B over B, and we've seen that. And also sine A over A is also equal to sine C over C. Okay, so this is your sine rule. If you do not understand the proof, you can ask question and we will answer you. Okay, so now we're going to look at the cosine rule in a moment.